you. Great to see you. Guys, thank you. Thank you. Wow, it's great to be here. Wow, great crowd. Wow. Wonderful news. Boy, it's great to be back in the Carpenter's Hall. I was upstairs. They're teaching drywall. How good is that? This is what this party believes in. Education, education, training, equality of opportunity for all Canadians. Great to be back here. Great to be in Hamilton. We've had a day when we've had the Conservatives doing what you'd expect. Negative attack ads, partisan attack ads. That's what that's what they're doing. What are we doing? We're announcing a star candidate. What a contrast. What a contrast. What a contrast. Hamilton has such a great Liberal tradition. Some of that tradition is in the room. Beth Finney is here. Gordon Sullivan's here. Other great Liberals who fought and won and held these seats. I got a memory that includes John Munro. I think of Sheila Copps. I think of all of the things, all the great leaders that have served the community of Hamilton. And we got another one just about to step up. This is a woman who has had the distinction of beating Chris Charlton a couple of times. She's going to do it again. She's a woman anchored in Liberal values, in Liberal commitments. And we have to remember what those values are. That's why I mentioned the Carpenter's Hall. That's why I mentioned those kids doing drywall. The Liberal Party believes at a core, passionate belief in equality of opportunity. There is nothing this country cannot achieve if we believe in equality of opportunity for every single one of our citizens. No Canadian left out in the cold. No Canadian excluded from the bright promise of Canadian life. That's always been the Liberal vision. And the Liberal vision, which is tied to this idea of social justice, has always said one simple thing. You want prosperity in Canada? You want the economy to grow? Equality of opportunity. That's how you do it. The great Canadian success story has been that passionate commitment to equality. Pensions you can rely on, a CPP you can count on. Medicare when you need it. Medical care free at the point of service for every Canadian citizen. The Charter of Rights and Freedoms standing like granite under all our feet so everybody in this room feels I'm as good as the person next to me. I'm equal. I've got recourse in law. All Canadians included, no Canadians left out. That is not only the Liberal vision of a just society, it's also our vision of a successful economy. Those are the values that this great candidate is going to fight for. Those are the values that the people in this room have fought for all their lives. Those are the values that brought me into politics when I was 17. Those are the values that fire me up. Fire me up. We're on a 20 riding tour in 11 days, the 2011 tour. Big crowds in Vancouver, big crowds in Winnipeg, big crowds in Oakville, big crowds in Kitchener, big crowds in London. I even did some skating in London. They all came to see me fall on my backside, and I did not fall on my backside. How about that, eh? I just want to say, I don't know when the election's going to come. I'm not ambling. I'm not seeking an election here. But I've got a job as the leader of this party to frame up the choices when an election does come. We don't know when it'll come. It's really up to Mr. Harper, not up to me. But let's be sure what this thing is about. Look around you. Look through your past over the 5 past years. Are we better off? Is the middle-class Canadian family better off than it was 5 years ago? I think the answer to that question is no. Is the Canadian economy stronger? Remember what we left them, $13 billion worth of surplus. Now we're in a $56 billion hole. And we didn't dig it. They did. Is this country more respected on the world stage than it was 5 years ago? I hear you say. This is the first prime minister to lose Canada's seat on the Security Council of the United Nations. 192 nations said there's something wrong with your foreign policy. Your foreign policy is not balanced. You've not reached out to the international community. You've not stood for peacekeeping. You've not stood for the values that Canada stood for before. And that's why we lost on the first ballot. You ask yourself, is the Canadian environment stronger? Is it better protected? And we all know it isn't. And we all know what we're in politics for, to hand off the surpassing beauty of this country in better shape than we found it. Can Stephen Harper say that? No, he can't. And these are the kind of questions we have to ask of Canadians. And there's one more question. Is our democracy stronger than it was 5 years ago? Think about prorogation. Think about his attitude to information. Information, he turns off the tap. Less information, more control for Stephen Harper, less democracy for you. It's wrong, it's got to change. And these attack ads today, it just sums up everything he's done to Canadian politics. Take us down the low road. My mother used to sing that song about, I'll take the high road and I'll get to Scotland before you. She was Scottish. We take the high road and we win on the high road. We've got a hopeful, optimistic vision of our country. It starts with those kids upstairs learning drywall. Training, education, investment in that rather than in jails and F-35 fighter planes. A clear choice to invest in equality of opportunity for all our citizens. That's the Liberal choice. A clear commitment to early learning and childcare for every Canadian family. It's the best anti-poverty program. It's the best equality program. It's the best bet on a future of shared growth for all Canadians. We're the only party in the country that's listening with passionate attention to what the middle-class Canadian family is saying to us. And what they're saying to us everywhere is, what happens when mom and dad get sick? What happens when my son or daughter gets sick? How can I get time off from my job to look after the people I love? How can I ensure that when my parents get old, they can stay at home and live in dignity in their own homes? We're the only party saying we've got a family care plan to stand with those families. Hear, hear, hear. And what does Stephen Harper offer? Jets, jails, and corporate tax cuts for the most profitable corporations in the country. Now is not the time for corporate tax giveaways. We're in a $56 billion hole. You can cut corporate tax when you're in surplus. We did it about 4 times. Ralph Goodale, Paul Martin, they know how to create a competitive Canadian economy. But you don't cut corporate tax in the middle of a $56 billion hole. You dig the country out first. And you take the money you save from those jets, and you take the money you save from those jails, you take the money you save from those corporate giveaways, and you invest in early learning and childcare, extra assistance for kids so they can get post-secondary education, home care for the Canadian family, and pension reform so everybody can retire in dignity. Sound good to you? It sounds good to me. All right. And now I get to the bit I like the best. We've got a wonderful woman who's willing to seek the nomination in Hamilton Mountain. A wonderful woman who has a distinguished record of public service. Well-educated, deeply rooted in the Hamilton community. Knows it like the back of her hand. Has Hamilton in her heart, her soul, and her guts. A skilled politician who's been a minister in a very distinguished provincial government. Served on the Royal Ontario Museum, a great Ontario institution, a great national institution. What a CV. How about that? How about that? Pretty good. Pretty distinguished.